An entitled Karen mom yanks my mom's prosthetic arm off after demanding a disabled parking spot. Yeah, so this story takes place somewhere in the late 90s, early 2000s. So, some backstory. My mom was in an accident when she was 14 and lost her right arm. She has about a quarter of that arm left that she calls her stub, and to be honest, the loss hasn't done much to derail her. She drives. She has a joystick-esque thing which sticks out of the wheel, and she turns it like she's steering a ship. She calls it her knob, loudly and in public. She worked for a long time until she started having issues with the arm she does have. And she's generally been the person in the family to host or prepare all events and do all the labor. Honestly, she's my hero. But you're here for the story, so here goes. Mom and I go to the supermarket at the busy hours on a weekend because we couldn't make our usual after-school weekday trip when things were less crazy. We go around the whole parking lot twice, as do a row of cars behind us, and we finally managed to nab a disabled spot right by the entrance because someone was leaving as we approached. Now, my mother rarely uses the disabled parking, even though she's permitted, because she always says people who can't walk, etc. need it more. But again, she's permitted, and there weren't any other spaces. After we park and get out, we hear a car honk a few times, followed by, "Excuse me," as a woman runs up from behind, catching us just before the entrance to the store. This woman literally left her car running in the middle of a busy parking lot, causing a massive pileup. So Karen catches our attention with her shouting, and when we turn around, we're greeted with her "Can I speak to the manager" haircut, 90s edition, and about half a dozen kids, ranging from goth tween to a toddler in her arms. Karen then goes on to explain how the spot my mom just parked in is for disabled people in an accusatory tone. My mom was wearing her prosthetic arm underneath her long-sleeve denim coat, overly big so the fingertips of her prosthetic were barely visible. So it was an honest mistake, even though it was a little odd the way she'd abandoned her car and ran up to us with her entire litter. Still, my mom smiles and proclaims, "Don't worry, I'm allowed to park there," and we turn him back around. That answer wasn't good enough for Karen. Suddenly, Karen and her kids are in front of us, and she's giving the toddler to another of her children just so she can fold her arms and pout. As you can see, she gestures towards her kids, I have a lot going on, and I need that spot more than you do. You only have one child. Now, I must have only been 6 or 7, but even I knew the difference between disabled parking and those spaces reserved for parents with small children. I said something along the lines of, "You need a disabled badge to park there, it doesn't matter how many kids you have," in 6 to 7-year-old lingo, and this woman took major offense. She goes off on a major rant about how being a mother of all her children was hard, how she was having an awful day, week, month, and how it's not fair that my mom, who looked perfectly fine, had tricked the government into getting a badge that lets her park in a spot that Karen should obviously have instead. As she rambles about this, she looks around, garnering the attention of other shoppers, and is doing that "don't you agree with me" thing that people do to validate themselves, but never gave anyone a chance to respond because she was already on to the next person. My mom grabs my hand and tries to lead me around Karen, ignoring her entirely. But Karen keeps stepping in front of my mom, demanding her spot. She's getting increasingly annoyed/loud. I remember asking my mom several times if I'd done something wrong because my response seemed to have triggered this rant, but she kept reassuring me it was fine and that I should just ignore her, which annoyed Karen even more. This goes on for about 5 minutes, a very long 5 minutes, before my mom finally snaps, "I have one arm," silencing Karen mid-sentence. I used to wonder why she didn't just tell Karen the specifics earlier, but as I've grown up, I've come to realize that it wasn't anyone else's business, and I can see why my mom wouldn't want to take her jacket off, which is kind of a chore for her, and pop the prosthetic just to prove something. So we begin to walk around Karen again, but barely make it 5 feet before we hear her go, "Bullshit." What happens next is seared into my brain. Karen storms up to my mother and tries to undress her, the denim jacket, and is just shaking, calling my mother a liar. And my mother goes into full fight to the death mode because physical altercations are obviously more intense, scary for her. She starts scratching, flailing, kicking, and even tries landing a headbutt on Karen. And as she does this, one of Karen's children attempts to jump in and help their mom, which leads to me jumping in to help mine, and suddenly I'm brawling with her kids. This couldn't have lasted longer than 30 seconds. It was enough time for people to stop and gather, but not enough for anyone to react/put a stop to it. I can't imagine what it must have looked like. 2 women in their 30s fighting as their children do the same by them. But it all came to a stop when, somehow, Karen manages to yank my mom's denim jacket from her, and off pops her prosthetic with it, crashing to the ground and resulting in a universal gasp that shook the entire parking lot. Okay, exaggeration, but it was definitely a moment. All that's left on my mom's arm at this point is the suction pad and sharp nail-like hook that slots into the prosthetic. It looks like a blade sticking out of her stub. And without missing a beat, my mom raises it to Karen and in a sarcastic tone goes, "Come on then." I wish I was old enough at the time to realize how hilarious that was. A woman from the crowd that gathered around us stormed into our little fight circle and picked my mom's arm up and handed it to her, before going off on Karen, who looks smaller than 7-year-old me at this point. People start shouting to get security, etc., and Karen rallies her spawn and they all run for her car. I still remember her kids yelling for her not to leave them because only her oldest could keep up with her running away as the rest trailed behind. My mom was visibly shaken by the incident, but wanted to save face for me/the crowd that was suddenly hounding us. She insists she's fine, doesn't want the police, doesn't want the fuss, and we go about our shop. When we got to the checkout, about 20 to 30 minutes later, a few of the people that witnessed the whole thing had gathered and insisted they pay for my mom's shop, which she reluctantly accepted. Then they helped us take all the shopping out to the car. And when we get home, my mom tells me she doesn't want me getting into fights ever again. And then she lets me have way too many donuts. P.S. To clarify, my mom absolutely cannot stand having her one arm restrained in any way. Grabbing her wrist/hand is a huge no-go. It freaks her out, and all logic goes out the window. Please don't think too poorly of her getting quick to anger/violence in this situation, because she honestly is the most level-headed and sweetest person in any other circumstance. Yo, I just read the OP's story, and it's crazy. I can't believe that this Karen actually yanked off the OP's mom's prosthetic arm just because she wanted a disabled parking spot. Like, that's kinda hilarious and messed up. Just outrageous and completely disrespectful. I totally support the OP in this situation, and I hope that this Karen mom learned her lesson. As for whether or not the story is fake or real, I think it's definitely real. The details the OP include in the story, like the way their mom drives and the way Karen acted, make it seem like a genuine experience. Plus, who would make up something like that? It's just too outrageous to be fake. A Karen vandalizes my car because I won't give her my parking spot, and it was all caught on camera. Here's what happened. Today, I crossed paths with the Mega Karen, Leader Vault Karen, and although she seriously disrupted my day, I'm kinda excited to share this encounter. I work in an office building with about 36 companies operating on the premises, and because of the odd layout of the building, we have 6 different parking lots. I prefer using the hidden lot that requires you to drive through one of the indoor lots to reach, which, between being hard to find and all the spots being marked compact, is usually less crowded than some of the lots closer to the road. Not to mention that the door into the building from that lot is right next to my office, so it's convenient in every way for me personally. Today, it was raining cats and dogs when I arrived at the office. For some reason, my normal lot was unusually full. However, someone pulled out of a prime space just as I arrived, giving me a much shorter walk through the wetness to reach the door. I exchanged polite nods with the guy leaving, then pull into the space behind him. As I'm getting out of my car and grabbing my laptop bag out of the back, I hear some distant car horn honking, but think nothing of it since it's practically on the other side of the lot. When I turn around to head inside, though, Mega Karen rolls up in an oversized SUV and slides to a stop on the wet pavement between me and the building, splashing me with a bit of puddle in the process. That spot wasn't for you. Excuse me? That parking spot, I was waiting for it and you stole it from me. I'm now irritated. Where, the highway off-ramp? No, I've been looking for a parking spot for 20 minutes, so when one comes up, it's for the first person waiting. At this point, I look up and take stock of the whole row of empty spaces she had ignored to come over and harass me about taking her space. And consider the fact that the claim she's making, that whoever was waiting first gets the first available space, is not now, nor has it ever been, a real point of etiquette. There are plenty over there that were open before I even got here. Take your pick. No, I need that spot. You need to move, now. Why on earth do you have to have this spot? She gestures to her back seat. So my baby doesn't get wet walking from all the way over there. I look in the back, and the kid looking back at me was easily 10 to 12 years old. Also, over there, couldn't have been more than 50 feet further to walk in the rain. Her kid was like, "Sup, that's not a baby. He'll be fine. And anyway, your car wouldn't fit in this compact spot." I move and point so she can read the 6-inch tall letters marking the spot as smaller than average. But if you go around that side of the building, there's another lot that isn't compact spaces. Whatever, are you gonna move or not? Your fat ass needs the extra exercise anyway. I'm already cranky because I hadn't eaten yet, now pissed that this orangutan in lipstick is talking to me this way. Well, I'm definitely not moving for such a colossal bitch. Have fun walking in the rain, I hope you get struck by lightning. I quickly walked away while this charming example of humanity hurled abuse after me. Now, admittedly, about 15 minutes later, once I settled in my desk, I started feeling really badly that I told this woman I hope she gets struck by lightning, even if there was no lightning going on in that rainstorm. I continued to feel bad for all of 5 minutes when the sound of a car alarm caused me to go to the window and look out. This woman had parked somewhere, gotten out of her car, and was now keying the hell out of my driver's side door. while EK recorded it on his phone. I took a quick picture of them in the act on my own phone and immediately called building security to tell them what was going on. So guess who got arrested for destruction of property and assault? Oh right, she also spit on and scratched the security guard who went to confront her, so assault. And everything went down from beginning to end was practically right under a security camera, so it got a good look at her kid, and her car, including the license plate. So no way she's getting away with it. And since the slur she etched into my car door is homophobic, she may also get charged under hate crime law. So that's fun. If I end up going to court having to testify, ever deal with this woman again, etc., I will totally post an update. P never posted an update, but wow, Mega Karens are the worst, and this one sounds like a total psycho. I can't believe she vandalized the OP's car just because they wouldn't give up their parking spot. And to top it off, she called the OP fat and told them to get some exercise. Like, what the hell? That's just rude and disrespectful. It's clear that this Karen was in the wrong and had no right to be acting like such an entitled brat. I'm glad the whole thing was caught on camera and the OP can prove their innocence. But you know what I'm glad didn't happen? This story on screen, where Karen accuses OP of kidnapping his own son and tries to kidnap him. Yep, I don't know why people are like this. But yeah, see ya, and please, subscribe.